Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to 83weeks.com right here on YouTube. And Eric Bischoff, it is the morning after one of the more eventful AEW Dynamites in quite a while. Because of your travel schedule, we had originally said we were going to record our regular 83 weeks, which is going to be on the WCW Hall of Fame. But that's not what we're doing now. We're calling an audible to talk about what we saw last night. Or in your case, Eric, you got up bright and early this morning and sat down and watched an episode of AEW Dynamite. And you don't normally watch the full show start to finish each and every week. I can't wait to see what you thought of last night's show, Eric.
It is the morning after.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a morning after pill that I could take to eliminate this abortion of a wrestling show from my memory.
Wait, really? I thought you'd have been all about that last night. I mean, he's doing his best Eric Bischoff impression, his best NWO impression. That was the vibe I got. It felt like he's taking a page out of your book, the 1996 version.
Conrad, if they would have laid that angle out, because clearly that's what they were doing. I mean, I'm sure there's some control out there that's, OD'd on the AEW Kool-Aid a long time ago. And, oh, no, this is different. It was better because... Okay, here's my take. They say that absence is a form of flattery, I guess.
Even imitation is a form of flattery.
Imitation. Not so much in this case. In fact, if they would have produced this whole angle as kind of like a parody, like the Billionaire Ted skits in WWE, like if they would have made it a parody of how the NWO started and my scene in Baltimore where I got jackknife powerbomb off the stage and all that, if they would have set this whole scene up as a parody last night, I probably would have been all about it. I would have enjoyed it. It would have been, at least it would have been entertaining. Yes, it would have been comedy. Yes, they'd be taking a shot, but they do that all the fucking time anyway, and then whine like a bunch of little bitches about tribalism when between Tony Khan and Dave Meltzer, there's no two single people out there that contribute more to tribalism by taking shots at others than Dave Meltzer and Tony Khan and the staff roster of AEW. But let me not, I don't want to get off track. If they would have produced that segment as like Saturday Night Live, if Lorne Michaels and the team at Saturday Night Live was going to produce a wrestling skit on the beginning of the NWO, this would have been what they produced. It was so fucking bad. It was parody. It was comedy. And the really sad part is they're taking this shit seriously. They meant that to be a serious angle. It was so fucking horrible from the beginning throughout the middle. The end was just, oh my God. And when was it, Conrad? I lose track because I do so much of this stuff. When were you? I think it was you and I arguing about whether Tony Khan wants to be a TV star. And I went off on my Dixie Carter impersonation because Dixie would, no, I don't want to be a character. No, I could never be on TV. I'm not going to do my Southern accent again because I know I'm wide open. I just can't do it. It's not the right time. Maybe I'll break into it before the end of the show, but I'm not quite there yet. I've got a little bit of a post-traumatic Dynamite syndrome thing going on. It was, you know what? I was telling Super Dave right before we hit record. This was, without a doubt, the worst, most horribly produced professional wrestling show for prime time on a major cable outlet in the last maybe forever years.
No, it's not. You don't.
Oh, fuck, it is. You cannot be honest because you're smarter than I am. You really are, and I acknowledge that. I have no problem acknowledging that. There's a lot of people out there that are smarter than me. Fuck. I'm happy with who I am. I think I've got adequate intelligence, fairly vast amount of experience, and I know that you're smarter than I am. But as someone who is, I know, smarter than I am and watches wrestling much more closely than I do right now, you can't honestly tell me that wasn't the worst television you've ever seen in modern primetime cable television viewing.
It wasn't. I mean, I've seen way worse shows.
Wow.
You don't watch enough to know that wasn't the worst, but I hear you. You didn't like it. That's loud and clear coming through. I will say this. I at least feel better about them showing the footage now. Like, I think when we first all heard they were going to show the footage, it felt like, boy, why? How random. Now, I realized at the time that was sort of everyone's takeaway. Like, why are they doing this? Well, if they were going to turn Tony into a television character, which we said on this program is the only way to get out of that mess and make it make sense.
And you were adamant he doesn't want to be a TV character. He doesn't want to do that.
Hang on. I was also adamant that, hey, if everybody's talking shit about Tony Khan, lean into it. A really smart, he's a friend of mine. He's a really smart guy and doesn't give himself enough credit sometimes. And he had a saying he used to use: controversy creates cash. And we got people talking when we showed the clip from Wembley, and now we got people talking with the way we closed the segment. Like, the response from this thing inside the wrestling bubble has been bananas overnight. What I'm most interested in, though, is as you and I are recording this, and I'll admit it's 9 a.m, the morning after that program aired. The clip on YouTube so far only has 262,000 views. And that, to me, is fascinating. AEW has 4 million subscribers on their YouTube, but there's only 262,000 views on that angle.
Are you trying to promote their YouTube show so people jump in and actually breathe some fucking life into that that void of a YouTube show that is AEW?
I'm just pointing out that when something crazy happens, like when The Rock came back and gave and took Cody's spot on SmackDown or whatever that was, we saw how just boom, it lit up. And I'm not trying to compare The Rock to, I mean, he's the biggest movie star in the world.
Nobody thinks you are, trust me.
You would see those numbers just go bananas. And that hasn't really happened yet this morning. But all I could think was, hey man, this is going to get people talking. And then this morning, I woke up and I started to see the NFL is actually reporting this. NFL.com, and I guess it came out quietly 6 days ago, that NFL Films is going to be following Tony Khan around this week during draft week. As you and I are talking, tonight is the NFL draft, which is another reason why they scheduled Jacksonville in Daly's place for Dynamite, because it's a big day in Tony's other businesses that make a lot of money, like the Jaguars. That draft is tonight. I got to assume Tony's going to lean into it, and they had NFL cameras following him and his dad around, and he's going to try to turn this into some publicity. I mean, what are the odds he shows up in a neck brace tonight? He has to, right?
It's just so absurd. And I think you're probably right. You covered a lot of ground there, Conrad. So let me back up just a little bit. You pointed out, now, having seen what we were forced to see last night, at least in my case, because I knew we were going to talk about it, that showing that footage makes sense. I'll give you that. I mean, in the sense that, okay, there was at least a reason that we can understand to do it. I get that. And I agree. It doesn't change the fact that it was a fucking horrible idea to show the footage. Yes, there was a reason for it. The reason for it is to lay out this fucking horrible angle that's not going to get anybody over. And I don't want to skip over the part because we're talking about the end of the show. The entire show was the shits, some of it worse than others. I would refer to it as indie-rific, but that would be an insult to every indie promoter around the world. And I'm not going to blame the talent. Look, the talent, everybody in that roster is doing what they can to advance their personal careers and represent their company. And that's what they should do. That's what, as a professional, if you don't do that, you get no respect for me and probably won't get much for anybody else you ever worked for. So I'm not blaming the talent. The talent is taking advantage of an opportunity, probably in most cases, the biggest opportunity they've ever had. And in other cases, the only opportunity they have left. And there's nothing wrong in either situation for doing your best, trying your best, and going out there and taking advantage of that opportunity. So I'm not going to beat up on talent. And there's some great talent on that show. But the way this show was formatted, the insight into the inner workings of Tony Khan's creative mind is right there for us all to see, starting with Swerve Strickland. And we're going to get back to that fucking parody of a parody that they called the main event, or the way they ended the show, I should say. We'll get back to that. But let's go back to Swerve Strickland. Wins the championship, wins the title. Celebration. Everybody's excited for him, including me, by the way. And what do? They shit all over him in the opening segment by putting him into a match that doesn't fucking matter with a guy that doesn't matter.
Respectfully, it wasn't even the open segment.
Okay, it wasn't. It was the opening match.
No, but I'm just saying, why didn't they open the show? I mean, very rarely do I get on here and talk about current stuff, but why didn't they open the show with a Swerve promo, a big victory lap, a celebration? Tell us what we can expect. Someone interrupts him. There's a challenge. Maybe that's our main event for this weekend. That's sort of what we normally get. Or, to your point, we have him dominate somebody pretty early on. That didn't happen. Instead, we got the Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta Orange Cassidy segment in Seg 1. I think that probably should have been Swerve and set up a match. But him wrestling Kyle Fletcher in the second segment on the show, and the last match on the show is going to be for the New Japan World title. It's hard for me to...
It's even beyond that. You're talking about formatting the match and where the show should, where what should be. Swerve Strickland shouldn't have had a fucking match. We should still be in celebration mode. We should be in the mode of getting him over. Just because you put the title on him and you give him, that 15 minutes of spotlight and shine on a pay-per-view that probably 150,000 people watch, that's not getting him over.
No.
The bringing up New Japan. Who is the president of New Japan? I can't remember his name.
Tanahashi yesterday, social media, talked about how impressed he was at the rapid rate in which WWE is able to make stars. That's an AEW partner saying that, by the way.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. And the reason for it is WWE and the creative behind WWE understands how to make a star. Tony Khan clearly doesn't. And I agree with you.
I don't know about that.
No. You got to let me go. You can't interrupt me. Just give me a second.
Okay.
If Tony Khan had a fucking clue, even if it was a passing clue, like he had it in his mind for a second and it left, and he could hold on to it and just think about it for 45 seconds. Strickland is in a unique opportunity to be a real babyface. You put the title on somebody because you want them to be the focus of your show. That's your A fucking story. And if your world champion is not your A story, then you have proven to the world that you do not know how to produce television or book wrestling. It's fucking 101. Get him over. 150,000 people, maybe, I don't know what the number's going to be, saw the pay-per-view. 800,000 on average people watch AEW.
Right.
Well, how about we smarten up the other 650,000 people in a way, not just smarten them up by telling them, Swerve Strickland won a title. Yay! Yay, isn't this great? Yay, feel good moment. But we're going to kind of put that off to the side because we're going to focus over here on this story. Why do it? And you know what's going to happen? Here's the fucking crystal ball. All right. And why I think if I was Swerve Strickland right now, I'm almost hotter about this than I am about the bullshit at the end. If I'm Swerve Strickland right now or his agent, I'm on the phone going, hey, motherfucker, what are you doing to my career? You're giving me a moment and not allowing me to really get myself over as champion. You know what that means? He's going to end up dropping that title to the next bright, shiny object that comes along. And everybody's going to remember, well, Swerve Strickland has a shot, didn't move the needle, didn't last long. They're not building him. They're building zero equity into Swerve Strickland because of what they did last night. And what they did last night can be corrected, but you know, some of it can't be because they were in that moment. They could have replayed. Here's what I would have done. I don't want to I fucking hate fantasy booking and armchair quarterback booking, but we're talking about specifically an issue here that I think should have never happened. Recap, open it up. That pay-per-view. Yeah. Again, maybe 25% of the total audience that watches AEW actually buys a pay-per-view, which is, by the way, probably pretty good percentage. I think it speaks to the loyalty. I was on the show with Wise Choices last night with Bully Ray, and I think Bully Ray pointed out a good thing. One of the similarities that actually do exist between AEW and ECW is the fact that they each had very small but incredibly loyal audiences. And I agree with that. And I think the percentage of people that buy the pay-per-view for AEW versus the size of the audience, that percentage, relatively speaking, is respectable, if not fairly high. But nonetheless, there's 650,000 people on average that didn't even see it. They didn't get that moment. And yes, they covered it with clips in the show. Okay, that's like standard operating procedure. But a better approach, especially with Mike Mansouri, who's one of the best there is at this shit, that's on the AEW staff, is build me a mucker fucking package. Did I say mucker fucking? I meant to say mucker fuddin'. It's early. But tell us a story in a video package. Take us back to the very beginning of his life, wrestling life. Give us some footage. Take us back to his very first independent wrestling match. Show us something that shows us where he started. And you could do this in a 3 or 4 minute package that would have gotten him over more than anything Tony Khan will ever be able to think of. Get this kid over. I call him a kid. Get this man over and create some emotion that people that didn't watch the pay-per-view can also experience. And even the ones that did watch the pay-per-view are going to experience it at a heightened level in a more emotional way. Or, as they say in the wrestling business, get the guy over. Get people invested in him. But fucking no. They're going to skip right over all that, throw him in a match that means absolutely nothing. They did nothing for his career, and no one is even going to be remembered by noon today so that they could make that bullshit that we saw at the end of the night, that parody of a parody that was so horribly executed. It's embarrassing to me. Having ever been in the industry, it represents an embarrassment. They shit all over Strickland. And here's the truth. They're too fucking stupid to even know they did it. That's the bad part. They don't even know they did it because they have no relationship whatsoever with wrestling creative. This is random shit. I'm sorry, did I lose you?
No, I just didn't want to interrupt you.
Come on now. I get it. I get it. I'm sorry.
No. I was just listening. You said earlier, a half hour ago, Tony Khan in AEW doesn't know how to make stars. And I want to challenge you on that, but I want to do it with a question because after Hulk Hogan left the WWF, Vince McMahon was like a ship without a sail trying to find his next big hit, his next big star. And when they decided it's going to be Bret Hart and they started in that direction, a lot of the marketing people and the promotional people, they weren't really sure what to do with Bret. And Bruce talks about this on the Something to Wrestle podcast. And he says that there was a phrase they would use around the office. What would we do for Hulk? The idea being, hey, we know how to get guys over. We did this and made Hulk Hogan one of the biggest stars in the world. Let's just do what we did for Hogan for Brett. Now, of course, I'm leading all that to say, when MJF won the world title, I don't think we would have had him in Seg 2, respectfully, against a guy who's probably most known for being a tag team wrestler. I think we would have opened the show or a crossover segment with a long MJF in-ring promo. Why don't we do that for Swerve? I mean, this is not how we handled Jericho. It's not how we handled MJF. Like, these guys, when they had their major moments, this wasn't the way they did it. And maybe you're saying, hey, the counter argument to that is that's not what you do. It's not a one size fit all. But I couldn't help but think, as Swerve's coming out and wrestling and not talking, like, boy, they wouldn't have done this with MJF. I don't get this.
Well, maybe just for a discussion, I'm actually playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because Swerve isn't that good on the mic. I don't know that to be true, but he's got a manager. It's pretty cool, pretty fun. And if that is the case, if that's the excuse or the reason, I'll be kind and call it a reason, then that's what packages are for.
Yes.
Either way, whether it's an in-ring, whether it's a package, whether it's hearing from his mother over a phone in the opening segment, talking about what all this means, or his father, or somebody else close to him. I don't know what his family situation is. If your parents are no longer alive, Mr. Strickland, I apologize, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Show me something emotional
Make me care.
That the audience can relate to. Whether it's a video package, a phone call from his mother, or if he has the ability to do an in-ring, but by God, get him over. Don't just give him the title and move on with your life, because that's actually going to hurt him. In the long run, it's going to hurt him. Why? Because he got the title and never went anywhere with it. And it'll be on Swerve. It'll be, oh, he just doesn't have it. No, he wasn't. They pulled the rug out from underneath him. You can actually kill somebody's career while you're making them think you're building their career. And I'm not saying that this was the situation here. I do not believe that whatsoever.
I don't think it's intentional.
No, it's not it's not what I'm trying to imply. But it doesn't matter because it has the same effect.
Yeah, the result's the same. I'm picking up what you're putting down there. I thought that was maybe the most egregious thing in the show. I knew that we were going to be talking about the angle to close, but the Swerve thing just got all over me. I'm such a big Swerve fan and know he had all this momentum. I felt like, and we actually discussed this, that maybe they pulled the trigger a little too late. And to see that this is the follow-up. Now, I also understand, the timing is what it is. The draft is this week. If you're going to make this a part of it, I get all that. And I like the idea that there's multiple stories going on. Okay, I'm all on board with all that. But it does feel like it's not like the draft snuck up on you. You knew this was coming at this time, and we knew what we were going to do at the AEW pay-per-view with Swerve winning. I mean, Swerve was a heavy betting favorite days ahead of time. I mean, that's been the whisper for a while that it was finally going to be Swerve's chance. I'm with you. I think they missed an opportunity to come out and really showcase him. I expected a big promo. And to your point, you said, well, maybe they don't think he's a good promo. I would push back and say, I think he is a pretty good promo. But if the powers that be feel like he's not a strong promo, here's an idea. Maybe he shouldn't be champion in the first fucking place. Now, I'm not saying that for Swerve, but I'm saying, to me, more than ever right now, AEW needs a champion who's a strong promo. Like, you're on here every week saying what AEW needs is stronger stories. Well, in America, I've talked about this with Kevin Sullivan, but my theory has always been, in Japan, the stories are told in the ring. In America, I think the stories, for the most part, are told on a microphone. We got to have a strong promo for AEW, don't we?
You brought up You brought up MJF.
Yes.
Look. It's not just my my subjective opinion or yours. It registers at Nielsen.
Yeah.
It registers at the box office. It registers in merchandise sales. It registers in YouTube views. It registers in a lot of different ways. It's a fact. It's just a fact. Promos work. And again, going back to Strickland, I don't know whether or not he has the ability. He may have. It doesn't even fucking matter because there's ways to work around that. If you believe in somebody enough, Bill Goldberg is an example. Now, I'm not comparing Bill Goldberg to Sean Strickland in any other way other than, Bill's strength was not his mic work. Work around it. He's got a manager already. Strickland has a manager already. Make that work. Do a less is more approach with Strickland and capitalize on what he is able to do versus trying to force him into situations to be maybe an MJF where he can go out and cut a 4-minute promo or 3-minute promo and keep people on the edge of their seat. Very few people can do that. You can't train that. You can't teach that. Either someone has that God-given ability or they don't. You can improve upon it. But if someone doesn't have it, you're not going to be able to give them a pill or send them to a class or in any other way artificially induce that person to have a skill set and a talent that inherently they don't have. But you can find a way to work around it if you know what you're doing. And by the way, looking and listening, unfortunately, to the interviews that I listened to, watching this, as someone very close to me who I highly respect said recently, a cornucopia of clusterfuck.
What a phrase.
If
Cornucopia.
I listened to the promo, I listened to every promo on that show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was horrible.
Well,
And
now,
I
hang on there, Eric. That's your girl now. You can't come on here and jack off Jen Pepperman a month ago and now come out here and say the
you can write whatever the fuck you want to write. You still have to have talent that can execute.
All right, listen. We don't ever talk. I'm never critical about current stuff, but what the fuck are they doing with Mercedes Moné?
That, and I was going to be my next point, Conrad. I guarantee you give me 5 minutes with Swerve Strickland. You give me a fucking iPhone and a flashlight, and I will produce an interview out of Swerve Strickland. And I've never talked to the man, more or less know what he's capable of delivering. But I swear to God, I know I'm right. You give me a fucking iPhone and a flashlight, and I'll produce a segment with Swerve Strickland that would have blown Mercedes out of the building. She was fucking horrible. Horrible.
I think they hired her for her wrestling ability. We've yet to see her do that, but her promos that I know, I never met Jen, and I know you're a big fan of Miss Pepperman, and I'm not being critical, but I will say it sounds like she's doing WWE promos every time. And I know that's where she cut her teeth and blah, 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 but it's her stuff stands out apart from everyone else. And I'm not sure that it's in the way they hope right now. I can't put my finger on, is she a heel? Is she a baby face? Calling herself the CEO and dancing around feels kind of heelish, but I think they want people to chant and cheer. I'm sort of lost on the whole thing. And it feels like we've seen the same thing over and over and over so far.
Well, again, it's okay. You're pointing to Jen Pepperman. I'm going to defend her. And you point out, boy, this feels like a WWE video. Well, she's a WWE fucking talent, Mercedes. So yeah, imagine that. Of course it is. And by the way, if AEW could get like within the same zip code of the quality of WWE promos, and by the way, I am not a huge fan of a lot of the promos and a lot of the backstage interviews and all that shit. I am not a fan of it. I think at best it's adequate, even in WWE. So for all of you who don't think I ever want to criticize WWE, I consistently point out that the interviews and the promos, not 100% of the time, but too often, are just a waste of time. They're not horrible, but they don't accomplish anything. And it's a little bit of a death by 1,000 cuts when you keep seeing talent on camera that are put into positions where they just can't possibly excel, either because of the nature of the shot or the interview or the writing in some cases, or just the fact that it's filler material and everybody knows it, they tune out of it consciously or subconsciously. That's usually the mark that's kind of like the standard mark. And then every once in a while, you get some stuff. Usually it happens out in the ring in front of people where it should, where you get that highly charged emotional kind of roller coaster promo. WWE is phenomenal at that. But a lot of the stuff they do is adequate at best, and I don't even know why they do it. It's a waste of fucking time. But if AEW could rise, I mean, work their asses off and do everything that they could to achieve the adequate level of promo ability in WWE, they'd be light years ahead of where they are now. And that's got nothing to do with the writing. The talent, there's so many talent out there, like Mercedes. And I don't dislike Mercedes. She's a phenomenal wrestler. She's a phenomenal performer in the ring. She's had an incredible run. She's hugely successful, and I respect the hell out of her for what she's accomplished. That doesn't mean she's capable of holding a mic for more than 30 seconds. She's just not. She wasn't in WWE, but guess what? They knew that, and they worked around that because you can if you're smart and if you know what you're doing. And rather, AEW hands her a microphone and says, "Here, go out and cut a promo for 4 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever." And every time she opens her mouth, her stock value decreases by about 10%. She'd be much better off never to say anything and just smile and do a little fucking dance and come out with funny hair and do all that shit. That got her over. And the whole CEO thing. Wait a minute. What's Tony Khan's? This is a Jimmy Hart perspective right now. This is something that Jimmy Hart would have said to me 30 years ago that I would have wanted to swat him with a fly swatter. But he would have been right. And I would have been wrong. Why the fuck have somebody out there whose gimmick is you're the CEO if you're putting your CEO in a major angle? Huh? I know, sounds stupid. Just, common sense. Like nobody could be that stupid. And I'm not suggesting anybody's stupid, but I'm suggesting they have absolutely no instincts when it comes to creative or how to book wrestling. Remember when Tony Khan came out and said if Ted Turner knew 1% booking wrestling as I do, WCW would still be around? That's fucking never going to age well. Whew. And yeah, let's keep talking. There's a lot more to talk about last night's show, including massive attendance figures.
Well, listen, I knew you wanted to bring that up, but because listen, as a reminder, I know that some of our listeners are abroad and maybe they don't think about this, but the show that we watched last night on Dynamite was in Jacksonville, the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Daly's place is actually attached to the stadium where they play. So it's NFL week. It's Jaguars week. They're placing really big picks over the next few days for the NFL draft. And it's a big deal here in America. I'm saying all that to say that a lot of towns have issues with the owners of their sports franchises, which is why there's a whole industry, sports talk radio, columnists for newspapers and clickable sites and things like that. They all just want to pick apart absolutely everything that the coaches and management do. And it does feel like perhaps a local reporter there in the Jacksonville market has an axe to grind with Jacksonville Jaguar owners, the Khans, because he ran an article that felt like it was something from the IWC, but it's the local CBS and Fox affiliate in Jacksonville saying that AEW was looking for seat fillers, which just blew me away. And of course, the reality is they're trying to give away 50 tickets to folks in the military. Like that to me seems like a nice thing, but now it gets passed around like it's, oh, we're looking for seat fillers. This is negative spin to me, right? Like we're giving away 50 tickets to members of the military and that's a negative thing. What are we doing?
I first saw before I saw the news story come out yesterday, I saw somebody, and I don't remember the site, or I'd acknowledge them. I'm going to say give them credit. I don't think they deserve credit for what I'm about to say, but I saw something early that looked like an AEW advertisement looking for seat fillers. Now, and that was before that article came out. And I actually retweeted it and said, I doubt this is real.
Yeah.
For all of you people who think I'm an AEW hater. because it looked to me like something that somebody that was really, half-ass good at, creating cool shit on a computer could have made it look like an AEW advertisement. And I pointed that out. So I don't think it's real. And then a couple hours later, I started seeing more and more and more of the same kind of stories coming out. And then the news coverage came out on the internet. It wasn't a published story. It was on the internet. So I went to WrestleTix. Just wanted to see how they were doing. I mean, it is essentially the birthplace of Dynamite. It's their backyard. It's their home field. Should be the most loyal audience. So I went on WrestleTix to see where they were at that time. We're talking about 4:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was early now. It was probably 2:30. It was 4:30 Eastern time, because I remembered thinking to myself, well, they still got an hour or two to sell some tickets. They hadn't sold out a 2,400 seat arena at that point, 2,459. It wasn't sold out. There were still a couple hundred tickets left at 4 o'clock Eastern time, or 5 o'clock Eastern. It was about 5 o'clock Eastern time, day of the show. So the next time I hear the spin, and that's what that's probably the catalyst for me going off. It's not that much what I feel about the show, because actually I don't really care, but the reaction and the spin and the lies and the distortion and the absolute fucking absurdity of it all, and trying to talk about momentum. Oh, this momentum, Jack Perry. Oh, showing the footage, and we did that. We want to create some momentum. Motherfucker, you showed the footage and lost 50 or 60,000 viewers the very next week. And yes, you got a pop, you got a reaction. Bully and I talked about it last night on the pay-per-view. Bringing Jungle Boy or Jungle Jim or whatever his name is into the arena, and the execution of that angle and the reveal of it being Perry, I thought was really, really, really well done. Did you hear it, haters? I thought it was really, really well done. Just in case you didn't get it the first time. And it got a great reaction, and it laid the groundwork for something that could have been really good with Perry. Now, I don't know him. I don't know what his potential is. My just initial reaction is, He just doesn't look like anything that could possibly be threatening to anybody older than 12 or 14. But whatever. That's subjective opinion. It doesn't fucking matter. They had it all on the palm of their hand. It was really well done. But to suggest that reaction is momentum, we're going to find out when the ratings come out today.
Oh, well, I don't think you could judge this angle based on one rating. I mean, it was the final segment. I mean, who knew what was going to, the real question is going to be,
the real question is, do we have momentum? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
No, I hate it when people do that to me. I get upset, and I'm not going to do it to you. I have too much respect.
No, I'm just saying, oh, listen, we're just having fun here and playing grab ass. I don't think you can judge the success of the angle, which is just now seemingly getting started. I mean, let's also remember, we don't really know where everything lies here. Our friend over on one of my favorite follows on Twitter, Andrew Dice Clay, tweeted out about an hour ago, a billionaire suspends a loyal wrestler for 8 months for something trivial, and Jack Perry is meant to be a heel. Why? Khan pretty much deserved his head driven into the floor, in all honesty. And I actually was not watching live last night because, well, my wife and I watch television together, and the last thing she'd like to do in the few hours we have together is watch wrestling. So I usually watch it after she goes to bed. But last night during the segment, I got blown up. Hey, man, please tell me you're watching this. And then another friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, said if they were trying to turn the Young Bucks heel or babyface, it worked because the Bucks are the clear babyface here. And I thought, now that's a twist we hadn't really considered. What if he just leans into being a heel? Like if this is some sort of I don't think that's the intent. I don't think that's where they're going, but I do think that's smart. Like lean into it. That's what Jericho's doing. He realizes that the fans have maybe changed their mind on him and they've cooled off. Hey, let's lean into it and let me be their hero, and that'll make them hate me more. Do you think there's any chance that Tony allows himself to be positioned as a heel in all this?
Don't know him well enough. That's one that I've got to digest that one. I don't want to just viscerally react, because my visceral reaction is fuck no, don't. No, he's not thinking. There's nothing that Tony Khan has done that indicates to me that there's any linear creative thought process that goes into fucking anything. Everything he does is random. I used to say he books for the internet, and for Dave Meltzer, he's booking for chat rooms. That's how low the booking strategy apparently in AEW has dropped to. This is just like chat room booking. And because everything that I've seen for the last several years indicate to me that there's no linear creative thinking at all, ever, anywhere in AEW, that I find it highly doubtful that there is a plan or any creative thinking, linear or otherwise, that Tony wants to turn this into him being a heel. Now, that's my visceral thought. If I think about it overnight, perhaps, and I'd have to really think about that. But here's the challenge in that. And this is where I'm conflicted, because Tony turning himself heel, whether he wants to be or not, would probably make sense because he's turning himself heel. I mean, just look at any article, and this is actually my constructive criticism is sometimes painful because it's blunt and intentionally so, because sometimes you have to be blunt to get people's attention or make them think. But if you go to any website that captures or quotes or covers a Tony Khan tweet, whatever it's about, and then you just go down and read the reaction. I'm not talking about on my site or my YouTube show, because those people they're subscribing to our show. They listen to our podcast. They listen to us on YouTube. They're probably fans of yours or mine to one degree or another, and generally are going to say things that are supportive. You're going to have others in there for sure that just love to be who they are. And that's fine too, because I get a kick out of that shit. I enjoy it. So I'm not asking you to stop, trust me. But if you read any of the comments on any articles that are covered on just about any internet site, and you just go down to the comments, it's like 80% of them are anti-Tony. So in that regard, much like you referenced Chris Jericho, who is smart and does understand and does think creatively on a linear basis, if Tony Khan were to turn himself heel, he would be leaning into something that's already existing, and he might be able to pick up some wind.
Right.
Maybe able to get some. So that part of me goes, God, I hope so. I would really like to see that.
Yes.
Because at least there's a chance it makes sense and could be effective. But here's where the other part of me comes in. This is where reality bites me in the ass. I think Tony has, as a human being, and this is an admirable quality, not something that I'm criticizing. Haters, did you hear that? This is an admirable quality and something I'm not criticizing. Tony's a genuinely nice person. He's a genuinely good person. I would bet everything I have on that. People like Tony don't like being hated. It goes against every fiber of their being. And in order to be a heel and an effective one, you not only have to have the talent, which, by the way, Tony doesn't have. Being a character requires a talent, just like being a singer, a dancer, a guitar player, or a fucking yodeler. You have to have some degree of talent. And Tony has absolutely zero in that regard. I don't care how smart he is. I don't care if he runs offense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It doesn't mean he has that particular skill.
Being a television performer, you're saying?
Yes, as a character. So the two things that Tony would need in order to be effective as a heel don't exist. He would have to have the talent to be able to perform as a character, and he'd have to embrace the hate. I don't think Tony even likes heat on his show. I don't think he likes people just doing anything but cheering and saying, this is awesome.
Well, that's fair. I've heard through the grapevine he doesn't love heat.
Well,
I've heard through the grapevine that when people are booing or chanting mean things, that's not his favorite.
Guess what? For him to be an effective heel and go out there in front of 800 people or whatever, 2,400 people, and having them react the way you want them to actually react, if you're in that role and you are that character, it goes against everything that makes him Tony Khan, which is an admirable thing, not a bad thing. It just is what it is. It's like asking, you or I to come out and, sing a cappella.
Yeah,
it's an opera. You know any opera?
No,
I don't. I don't have that skill.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, I could think of only one person when I saw this happening last night.
Who?
Jinder Mahal. I mean, if you're really going to do it, if you're really going to lean into this, I mean, the post-match promo from Jack Perry and the Young Bucks, we're getting AEW back on track. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And, I don't know that you saw, but the NFL.com is reporting on this. And I know that a lot of people who are not necessarily wrestling fans here in America, but they're abroad, maybe they're listening to us across the pond. Maybe you don't know what a big deal the draft is, but it's one of the most watched sporting events, and it's not even a sporting event, but the fandom and interest in the NFL, it has no comparison here in the United States. And the idea that he might be attending and sort of doubling down on this story, and they're also following him NFL Films this week, and the NFL.com is already writing. I mean, look at there. Jaguars Tony Khan takes punch, pile driver on AEW Dynamite show. I don't think the NFL.com has ever ran a story with the word pile driver ever before. Like, I appreciate that they're trying something, Eric. Like, I maybe this isn't what everybody wants. Maybe there's some people who really legitimately hate Tony Khan. For those people, I would say he got beat up last night. You're welcome. But they're trying something. It's not the quote unquote same old shit. I'm here for it. I say let it play out.
Oh my God. Oh,
come on.
No, I'm not going to come on. This isn't me hating. This is just me being real. And I think, yeah, they tried something and it was fucking horrible.
Eric, you said
it was embarrassing. It was flat out embarrassing. Great. You're getting some headlines going into the NFL draft. I am a media whore. I will fucking run down the street naked, painted purple if I thought it would give me the right amount of media and help me achieve my goal. I get it. I'm not above it. But this was embarrassing. It was the fucking execution on the show itself was embarrassingly bad. From the horrible audio, which I get it, shit happens. I'm not going to criticize creative shit happens. I get it. It's live TV, but it's still there. The whole show was fucking hideously embarrassing for me. And if this angle and Tony showing up at something that's supposed to be as serious as the NFL draft with a fucking neck brace on, like Andy Kaufman, it's been done to death. It's fucking stupid. Nobody's believing it. You just look like a clown for doing it. But hey, you'll get some headlines. And if somehow that moves any needles outside of your mind, outside of your own fantasy, if it actually moves the needle and equates to, it's not going to help with ratings. Nothing's going to help with ratings. But it may possibly, if I'm being really optimistic, perhaps in a media negotiation, the fact that that brand is being covered and is getting national news at a high level in a major sport, perhaps that may help at least open the door for a conversation. I'll buy that. I'll sign off on that. But to suggest that this media is going to do anything for that show or its future beyond what it could mean in a future negotiation, I think is laughable.
I'm sure it'll be about as effective as when you made David Arquette the world champion. Let's talk a little bit about the planted story here, because that's what this really is to me. I don't know that everyone remembers, but Matt Kuhn actually pointed out on Twitter, and that's the first person I saw, that Inside the Ropes ran a story. Dave Meltzer has revealed that Tony Khan is still furious at Jack Perry and holds him solely responsible for AEW losing CM Punk. And Brian Alvarez has a tweet from about a month ago. Jack Perry disputes apologizing for CM Punk fight, was denied AEW release request. I don't know what happened. I don't know what didn't happen, but that feels like a little co-opted media support there to me.
Are you kidding me? I mean, Tony Khan and Dave Meltzer are psychologically symbiotic. They're joined at the hip. They think the same. They like the same things. One of the reasons, if you've been following Meltzer at all on social media, this mucker father's cracking like an egg. I mean, every time he posts, it's him responding to somebody who's actually listened to something he said or read something he said, points out the flaws in it, and then Dave proceeds to say, well, you obviously don't read, or you obviously didn't listen closely enough. You didn't get the context. No, motherfucker, you don't know how to write. You have the communication skills of a fucking 14-year-old. And it's impossible to understand what you write because you fucking write like a 14-year-old that's never been to an English class. It's horrible. It's vertigo-inducing bullshit. But they like the same. It's chat room wrestling. I imagine Dave Meltzer is a god in a chat room. And it's co-opted. Sure, Dave is doing everything he can to spin in hype for AEW, and I don't believe he's being paid. Haters, did you hear that? I don't believe he's being paid.
He's not.
One more time. You say he might?
He's not. I know for sure.
Oh, I thought you said he might. I was going to say, ooh, do tell, Conrad. No, I don't believe he's being paid. I do believe, however, that Dave Meltzer is so emotionally connected to what's going on in AEW because it was the only opportunity Dave Meltzer has ever had to be really close, legitimately close to the epicenter of a national wrestling promotion and have them affect his view of what wrestling should be. Because both Tony and Dave come from that same wrestling ideology. Japan. Let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know what the average attendance is for New Japan Pro Wrestling right now?
I don't.
Last year?
I don't.
I do. It's about 1,700 people.
Sounds right.
This is not the New Japan Pro Wrestling of the Antonio Inoki era. This is not 80,000 people in the fucking Egg Dome on a regular basis. This is, yes, they're a national promotion in Japan, I guess, however you want to define that. There are others. But, being a huge star in New Japan is not what it used to be. But in Dave's mind, it's everything. Tony's as well. And they're trying to force feed that style of wrestling. I won't say force feed, that's not fair. They're trying to use that style of wrestling and depend, that's a better way to say it. They're trying to depend on that Japanese wrestling ideology and style and presentation here in the United States. And it's never going to work. It's just not. It's a great thing to have. It's great garnish on the plate. So if you think about your weekly television show as a plate of food at a really high-end restaurant, you want 6 or 7 different courses because you want your customer to walk away being completely satisfied and having the best of the best in each one of the food categories that they ordered. And if you look at your show as a plate, in a high-end restaurant, yeah, you'd want that Japanese style in there. You would want, the Will Ospreay style of wrestling in there because it is phenomenal. It's exciting to watch. It's very dynamic, but you can't depend on it to carry a national television audience because they're not going to bite. You'll get a certain segment of the overall audience. So let's just say, for round numbers, let's say there's 3 million active wrestling fans that watch wrestling every week on television. That's assuming the Raw audience, the SmackDown audience, and the AEW audience is all essentially one big wrestling audience, because I do believe that's true with maybe some very small exceptions. That's the overall, that's the market. That's your market. AEW gets, what, 30% of that market? Maybe on a good day? In terms of television viewing audience, they get maybe 30% of that. They need to grow that percentage of market share, and you're not going to do it by totally concentrating on the chat room wrestling style that Tony Khan and Dave Meltzer believe in so much. And that's why Dave bends over backwards to spin for him, because this is his last shot. If this thing tanks, if you go back and you read some of the stuff, if you could tolerate reading it without falling off your fucking chair from vertigo. But if you go back and you look at his stuff, Dave tries so hard to, well, first of all, he thinks he's really good at weaving in his surrogate support into what he thinks people will believe is a fair and balanced presentation. It's not. Dave is spinning his ass off. And I don't know how he spins this. I don't. It'll be fun to watch. And the people like Dave and all the chat rooms, it'll be fun to watch them try to spin this. But wow, what a fucking, I haven't seen anything this bad since the AWA Team Challenge series. And that was like right before Vernon went bankrupt. No, I'm not saying this. I mean it. It's one of the first things I thought of was this was so fucking bad. I can't remember anything this bad. And I go back to the AWA Team Challenge series. I was there. It was right before Vern closed the doors. He literally had no money left, but he still wanted to produce a show. So we did the best we could with what we had, which wasn't very fucking much. That show may not have been as bad as what I watched last night. Nah, it was. Who am I kidding? It was as bad. But I don't think it was worse.
Did you like anything on the show at all?
No. It was fucking horrible. It was horrible. It made me embarrassed and I want to say embarrassed. Yes, it made me embarrassed because when I talk about being in the professional wrestling industry and I look at what WWE has accomplished, what I accomplished for a period of time, what I accomplished with WWE as a talent, I look at the business. I love the wrestling. I love the industry, and I want the industry to grow and succeed, which is why it's easy for me to get excited about WWE because of their growth and the things that they're doing, and why it's so hard for me not to call out the silliness that I see in AEW, all of which could be avoided, by the way, because we've neglected to talk about this. But Tony Khan and his roster continue to take shots at WWE while bemoaning like little bitches the tribalism that exists. They're fucking creating it. If Tony wanted to go off and do this wacky shit and say he's the alternative, I would probably support that because it is an alternative. It's completely different than what works in mainstream. I get it. But to as recently as Sunday, you've got the roster in their scrum taking shots at WWE and Cody Rhodes. All Cody Rhodes has ever done is put the people in AEW over. You're not taking any shots at anybody. But now you've got talent coming out and taking shots at WWE and Cody Rhodes. Fucking why, when you go out and shit the bed the way you shit the bed last night on national television, changed the wrestling world. Jungle Jack Perry comes out and looks into the microphone with a straight face, says, AEW changed the wrestling world. Are you fucking kidding me? Who believes that?
Wait a minute. Are you acting like it had no impact on anything at all in wrestling?
It gave people jobs. It gave people like me something to talk about. That's it.
Yes, change.
I would agree that it's had a major impact on social media and in the world of podcasts. But beyond that, the rest of
WWE would look the same, whether AEW existed or not.
I do believe that, because I do believe the things that happened to Vince McMahon would have happened whether AEW was around or not. And eventually Paul Levesque getting control and people like Bruce and Ed Koskey finally being able
where would Cody Rhodes
do what they're able to do. Yes, I think that would have happened anyway, with or without AEW.
Cool. It's one of the dumber things you've ever said here on the program, but cool.
In what way is it dumb? Please do tell.
Oh, please explain who the top guy is in WWE. Who is that again? Who's the champ? Who just main evented 4 WrestleManias in a row?
Cody Rhodes.
Okay. So you're going to do that?
If it wouldn't have been Cody Rhodes, it would have been somebody else, because it was the storytelling that got Cody Rhodes where he is. Yes, Cody Rhodes brought a backstory with him. And I will readily admit the fact that he left WWE because he was there first and went to AEW and got an opportunity to do something that he dreamt of, realized it wasn't going to work and went back. Yes, that added to his story, and it added to the intrigue. It certainly added to him, when he returned first to WWE. That was a big news story. That definitely made it possible. But if it wasn't Cody Rhodes, it would have been somebody else.
But to say that it didn't have an impact on wrestling is just disingenuous.
The wrestling business, no, it did not have an impact on it, because if it wouldn't have been Cody Rhodes, it would have been somebody else.
Oh my God.
Cody Rhodes' title run did not save the wrestling business.
I didn't say it did.
I know you didn't say it did. My point is that it would have been somebody else, because I do believe that the creative team as a whole, not just any 1 or 2 people, as a whole, with the ability they have now to actually do their job without some of the obstacles that were in their way up until recently, they would have gotten there with somebody else.
Cool.
That's no disrespect to Cody. You know that. It just is what it is. That's a real 33,000 foot perspective, not a ground level perspective. Sorry, I'm fired up, Conrad. Can you tell?
Yeah, it's all nonsense. You're just way wrong. But listen, you're allowed to be wrong. It's your show. Hey, we got
it's our show, and if I want to embarrass myself on our show, you should fucking be willing to welcome that with open arms.
I do, which is why I'm just laying out and let you show your whole ass here today. Let's talk about June 28th, 2021. There's an article that I want to share here with you. It's a recapping an appearance that Tony Khan had on Barstool's Pardon My Take podcast back in 2021. So almost 3 years ago. And WrestlingInc.com has the headline, Tony Khan talks not wanting to be a character on TV. And the bottom of the write-up here at WrestlingInc.com says, Khan also reiterated to the host's disappointment that he had no plans to become a character on AEW TV. Quote, I've done stuff on other wrestling shows that kind of promotes AEW and crossover. He's referencing appearing on Impact. But that's kind of the line I don't want to cross, because I feel like you disappear up your own butt when you start writing that way. Now, of course, we know he did actually appear as a television character more recently, including last night. But you yourself were one of the first guys to be able to do that, to be the boss and be on air and become a character. And a lot of people take issue anytime you say anything about AEW, because they're like, oh yeah, what about this? And it's like, guys, that's why I go to Eric for these opinions. He lived it. He did it. What do you think of Tony Khan's comment that once you become a television character, if you're not careful, you can get up your own butt with your creative?
It's an interesting comment. I like it. But I will say, I mean, it's, the what about thing is so hard. I mean, first of all, these are children that respond that way mentally. They're fairly underdeveloped and are just reacting emotionally. So I got to remind myself of that. People forget that I started out as an on-camera character long before I ever got into management of any kind. In fact, I'd been doing it for as a character 4 or 5 years or longer before I stepped into any level of management. And I continued to be a character through all those different levels of management, up to and including becoming president of the company. So it's not like I became the president of the company and decided to put myself on television. A little bit different, folks. Get your shit straight. Kool-Aid drinking fucking marks. It is different. Now, I'll also look at, okay, that's my experience. And I will fast forward. At the end, it did become an issue. Being a character, actually being the boss, became an issue, not because creatively I was thinking with my head on my ass. It just creates a lot of other issues. Some of them you just don't anticipate, some of them you should anticipate. So it did become an issue for me. I'm not saying that I did it successfully. That's my point. I don't think WWE suffered. In fact, I don't think WWE would be where WWE is today had Vince McMahon not taking himself from behind the broadcast booth, inserting himself as Mr. McMahon, the boss, and creating that issue that existed between Mr. McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't think WWE would be the company today had Vince McMahon not made that move. It can be done very effectively, but it can only be done very effectively when you have a character that can perform. This is where, and I'm not going to repeat the shit I said earlier, this is where Tony making that judgment and making that call, I think, was one of the worst decisions he's made so far. It really is. And I hope that he proves me wrong. But I just can't imagine a scenario that he will, because he doesn't have the talent or the mindset to do it. Vince loved to be hated. I fucking reveled in that shit.
Heat is life, you used to say.
I still do. I love heat. So I stir so much shit up because it's just fun. I get to kind of dip my toe in the water and be a little bit of that character again and watch people react like I know they're going to. It gives you that ability to kind of manipulate and control, have fun, and in my case, derive a tremendous amount of free content to work with. It's a hoot.
Let's talk about Wrestle Talk. He had a quote that was recapped here from the Bloomberg Business of Sports 3 years ago. He said, "No, I don't write myself as a TV character, but if this makes sense, I am a plot device in the show. So you hear my name a few times because I'm the matchmaker. I make the matches, so you'll have someone appeal to me. I don't need to act or be on television or take up the TV time, but you do have to have a commissioner and a person who lays down the law and makes the rules. So maybe he's not going to be a character. Maybe, I don't know how that is possible at this point if we're taking finishing moves. But what I do know is Kenny Omega is announced as being on television next week. This will be his first time on the program since December. And Air Gold actually put together on Twitter a pretty interesting timeline that breaks down everything that's happened in this storyline. And he's made sense of it and makes all the plot points, stuff that I missed that he says makes sense. And it's hard to argue. For instance, when we saw Jack Perry make his New Japan debut, he is actually doing all the Young Bucks and Okada moves. I didn't watch his match, so I didn't know that. And then they air the footage, and now here we are. And of course, we've seen Kenny Omega doing more streams lately, not on the show, but on his own Twitch stream playing video games. And he's answering questions and talking to fans and saying things like, I don't think I deserve to be an EVP. I don't think I should be an EVP. I don't think my method for solving conflict is fighting. I think fighting is okay. And now he's going to be back next week. Of course, the Young Bucks have kicked him out. We're going to see what's up with Kenny Omega. I'm taking a wait and see approach on this, Eric, and I'm being optimistic. And I know that frustrates you, but I want to see where this goes with Kenny Omega and Tony Khan, maybe being more of a television character. I think there's an opportunity here to do something different than what they've been doing. I'm going to try to be optimistic about it.
And I look, one of the folks, hey, Isaac Rissin, how are you, man? It's been a long time. Hope things are well, Isaac. I was looking at the chats here from our family over at every shows, and somebody pointed out, I've already lost it, but somebody pointed out that the reason people think I'm an AEW hater is because of the way I deliver my thoughts and how I say what I'm talking about. And I know that's true. I guess sometimes I try to be aware of that. This isn't about hate, and I am about being optimistic. And I do think in the scenario that you just laid out, the scenario you just laid out is interesting to me. And if it can be executed in a way that doesn't look anything like what we saw last night, I would be optimistic. And I will be. I'll give it a shot. I actually want to see something that makes me go, whoa, the light bulb went off. Or maybe just, whoa, they're doing something, as you said, different than what they've been doing. I'm in. I want it to succeed. I really, really, really do. So I'll be right there with you. I'm not predicting anybody's failure. I'm pointing out the things that could lead to failure if they don't change. And yeah, I have an opinion. And some of it's just based on my personality, but the vast majority of it is based on 30 plus years of experience at the very fucking lowest level and the very fucking highest level that exists in this industry and everything in between. So I have a perspective, and sometimes that perspective gets emotional.
Well, I'm fired up because I know, I just want to point out, we're 4 months away from their biggest show of the year. We're 4 months away from their WrestleMania. We're 4 months away from the return to Wembley Stadium. It feels like now is a great time to start telling that story and then blow it off 4 months from now. Of course, there's going to be some pay-per-views along the way. We've got Double or Nothing. We've got Forbidden Door. But my goodness, man, if they are doing something different and they're going to have this inter-promotional war of sorts with the Elite maybe trying to take over AEW or whatever it is, that'd be a great place to blow it off. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for this one. I think this could be the start of something really fun.
Why don't you do yourself a favor, and more importantly, not do yourself. You don't need any favors. You're doing just fine. But why don't you do your friend Tony Khan a favor and lay that out to him? Why don't you help him? Somebody needs to. He needs to listen to somebody because he's got all of the tools. He's got the money. He's got the cable platform, prime time. He's got an abundance of great talent. He just needs help. And if I were you, if I had a relationship with Tony, I'd pick up the phone and say, hey, dude, let's chat. Let's go have a steak.
I don't think I should be pitching storylines. I gotta say, I loved seeing Shad Khan on TV last night, and it made me wonder, do you think there's any chance we see him a little more? I'm not saying he's going to become a regular television character, but you want to talk about blurring the lines. If everybody online, I mean, just last week, or as we're recording this, earlier this week, you were just blasting Tony and saying awful things about Lucky Sperm Club or whatever the fuck you said. It's just horrible shit.
Wasn't that horrible? Come on. He was born into wealth. That's what I said. What is so horrible about that? You're just like everybody. You're just framing something I said as being evil and horrible. Bleh.
You thought Lucky Sperm Club was a compliment.
I wish I was a member of the Lucky Sperm Club. I guess how else can I take it?
Yeah, that's the must be nice that people say to rich people. Oh, must be nice. I'm just saying, like, Shad Khan being a television character, just being on television, was at least interesting to me last night, Eric. And I think it would be hilarious if that's not the last time we see him. Like, if people are going to talk about it, lean into it. That's why I like the Jericho segment. Like, I know that there's a lot of people online who decided they don't like Chris Jericho, but this learning tree thing where he's being the smarmy white meat baby face you hate, it's just Kurt Angle from 2000. I love that.
As do I. And Chris, as we've seen, again, look at the patterns. You can feel however you want to feel at the moment, but step back, get up around 33,000 feet cruising altitude and look down and see the big picture. Everything looks different when you rise above it and look down at it, so you can see everything instead of just what's right in front of your face, right? Chris Jericho has, over the last 15 years, reinvented himself more often, more effectively, in a more entertaining way than anybody that's put on a pair of wrestling boots, probably in the last 30 years. He's not a Ric Flair. Ric Flair has been Ric Flair since day one,
That's
really.
right. It's different, yeah.
You know, a lot of the big names, you know, and Chris is in that category in my mind. Those guys have all been that same character for a long time. Chris has been able to like shift on the fly. He's not even using the clutch. He's speed shifting. No clutch necessary, and it's effective. So yeah, talk about being optimistic. I'll sit back and watch this one because I know the pattern, and the percentages of success are really, really high with Chris.
Let's talk about Shad Khan, and then I want to move on. Do you think that's the last time we see him? I don't.
I hope not, because honestly, of everybody that was in that ring last night, he looks more like an imposing, dangerous character than 80% of the roster. Like, that guy scares me. This guy's dangerous.
And he's a billionaire. Just throwing it out there.
But I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know him. But if he's even remotely interested, I would tap into that, because he actually looked. Somebody told me once, again, I don't know who it was, or I would give him credit. It wasn't my idea or my thought. But somebody told me once the most effective characters always have an element of danger to them.
Okay.
And that's part of my problem with a lot of the characters that I see, is none of them look dangerous. A few of them do. But for the most part, this is when I look at some of these characters, especially the ones that they're pushing the hardest, like the Bucks. I'm sorry, no offense to them. I'm sure they're absolutely great human beings, solid citizens, good husbands, good fathers, and all those wonderful things.
Right.
But they do not look dangerous.
That's fair.
They look the opposite of dangerous. And so many of the talents that I see that come out there don't look dangerous. Shad Khan looks dangerous. He's got that look. If you were casting a movie or you were casting a wrestling show,
I see what you're saying. He looks like
that one imposing character that would have some kind of fucking tricks up their sleeve that you could never imagine or afford. Yeah, that would be that guy. And I would cast Shad Khan. He's dangerous.
He's intimidating, is what he is.
Another word for it. Intimidating. Yeah.
Because here's the thing too, we're not just saying his look, and he was having a killer mustache day, but just to know, man, this is, and I know that, listen, there's a lot of things that you can be tribal about and you can hate on AEW about, blah, blah, blah. I get it. You're talking about a Hall of Fame businessman, a real entrepreneur, like a titan of industry, like a very accomplished human being is Shad Khan. And to have him in the ring for a wrestling angle is a big deal. And I know that some people are like, what's the big deal? It would be like if fucking Ted Turner was in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's that level of a businessman in there for a wrestling angle. And I know it's his company, but it was Ted's company too. It was just interesting to me. And I hope that's not the last time we see it.
No, I think I actually think I would advocate for it. Done properly, it could add a shit ton of credibility to this and that element of danger. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, everybody involved, including Jungle Jack Perry and the Bucks and all those characters, now there's stakes, because now the shit's hitting the fan. I hope we do see him. If we don't, it'll be a miss. Because using him effectively could, and you could do it over a long term. It doesn't just have to be a short run. It doesn't mean you have to see him all the time. Actually, it'd be better if you didn't. Every once in a while, when things get out of hand, boom, in comes this dangerous looking, intimidating multi-billionaire that's really funding this company. Yeah, I think it'd be great. There's a lot to work with there.
Well, especially since people like yourself get on their platform and say, and it's not even your money, it's your dad's money. If you think that's not going to be said in this feud, if this is going to go 4 months and be blown off at Wembley, like, Just lean into all the negative shit. Just say it on TV. It'll get the haters talking. It'll get the people who love it talking. And
I agree with you.
I think it's interesting. And I want to remind everybody, this is not the first time it's been done. The first time I remember seeing something like this happening was when Kevin Nash jackknifed you through the stage in 1996. That set up WCW versus the NWO. A year later, a fellow named Stone Cold Steve Austin, he tried this with Vince McMahon in Madison Square Garden, and he gave him a stunner. And that set up Austin versus McMahon, and that was the angle that ended the run the NWO was on.
Yeah, not only that, Conrad, I apologize for interrupting, but to augment what you just said, it not only was the thing that ended the NWO run, we're talking about Austin McMahon. In my opinion, if you really go back and you look at the state of the business and all the things that happened before and after that particular moment, I think that creative, that decision, that choice to use Mr. McMahon and Steve Austin in the scenario you just described is largely responsible for the success that we're seeing today. It was the rock in the pond that created the ripple effect of great things that happened to WWE as a result of that angle, because they were dead in the water leading up to it.
I'm saying all that to say, those are the two best examples, Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon. They turned WCW's business around. They turned WWF's business around. But Dixie Carter tried this, and they weren't nearly as big, obviously, as WWE or WCW when it happened. But Bully Ray, your old pal, put her through a table, and it got people talking, but it didn't really go anywhere. And kind of the same thing happened with Scott D'Amore. So I think angles like this, they can be one way or the other. It can be the biggest, hottest thing in wrestling, or it can go nowhere. You know which one I'm pulling for. I want it to work. I want wrestling to be bigger. I want it to be better. But all these similarities have everybody talking. And recently there was a interview with Tony Khan where he was asked about why he doesn't get along with you. I want to read that quote to you and get your reaction. He says, "It's an interesting question. There haven't been that many wrestling companies that have risen to international prominence. There aren't that many wrestling companies in modern wrestling history that have sold tens of thousands of tickets and hundreds of thousands of pay-per-views. In that sense, Eric and I do have something in common. I do respect his accomplishments. He just has a show, a podcast, that is largely devoted at taking shots at us, and a lot of it isn't rational or logical or truthful. I don't think those things seem to matter to him anymore. I do respect what he accomplished with WCW. It was a great company. In that sense, I do respect him. We're on TNT and TBS. That's something I have in common with Eric. There aren't a lot of people that produced a lot of wrestling shows on TBS and TNT. That's one thing we do have in common." So he's at least acknowledged that he respects your accomplishments, and WCW was a great company. He says, largely your show is devoted to taking shots that aren't rational or logical or truthful. Your response?
It's his opinion. I don't take shots for the sake of taking shots. I point out facts. I point out observations based on my experience. And by the way, most of the time I've been right. I mean, if you really listen to the show, take my colorful delivery out of the equation and just look at what I say or listen to what I say. I don't know. 100% of what I say is logical. You may not agree with it. It's my logic based on my experience and my perspective. And more often I've been right than I've been wrong. Far more often I've been right than I've been wrong. So I think the whole truthful or honest thing is just Tony's way of, whatever, feeling better about it. The rest of it was just Tony putting himself at my level. And great. He respects what I accomplished. He should, because now he knows how hard it is. Unlike when he came out and said, "Well, we're not going to make the same mistakes WCW made." Okay. How's that play today, Tony? But the rest of it was just him trying to put himself over. That's all. I get it. I don't dislike Tony Khan. If Tony Khan was in Cody, Wyoming today and said, "Hey, let's go grab a steak," I'd go grab a steak. Have a very good chat. I don't dislike Tony Khan at all. If I had to describe my feelings towards Tony Khan, in one word, it would 2 words: like him. not a bad person. I enjoyed my interactions with him, the limited ones I've had. It's not a matter of like and dislike. And that's where the whole tribalism thing comes in, right? That Dave and Tony keep whining about, but yet they're the ones that are creating it. And then when people react to it, it's like, oh, they're so fucking mean. Dude, just wake up. I'm all for him. Tony, give me a call. I've actually called Tony twice. The first time, a couple of years ago, when I first came out, I said, Tony, shut up and wrestle. This isn't working. What you're doing is going to cause you to lose goodwill. Oh, he's a hater. He hates me. He hates AEW. He wants a job. Oh, he's upset that Tony's successful and he's not. Blah, blah, blah. Fucking idiots. No, I just saw the freight train coming. I saw over 2 years ago what was going to happen if Tony Khan, from a strategic point of view and tactical, kept going in the direction they were going. They were going to lose goodwill. Very, very, very valuable thing to lose. And I kept predicting, I kept talking about it. And where are we? Go check out any comment in any publication. As I said earlier, look at the responses to anything Tony Khan says. Vast majority of them were negative. Why is that? Does it really matter? Who knows? But why is that? It's because they've lost the goodwill by doing the very things that I admonished Tony not to do over 2 years ago. And now we are where we are. How is that being mean? How is that being hateful? It's like telling a little kid, don't walk out into the street without looking both ways or you're going to get hit by a car. Why is that hateful? It's only hateful if you want to interpret it as being hateful. And yes, I make it easy because of the way I say things, but I assure you, my passion is only because I give a fuck. And I don't want to see anybody get hit by a car. And if I can yell and scream and point out facts and predict the future with an incredibly high success rate, hoping that maybe someone will listen, I'll do it. Partly because I hope someone will listen, and partly because I am passionate and this is fun.
It is fun, and we've got a lot of fun questions here from everybody who joined us over at adfreeshows.com. Appreciate you guys being our live studio audience for a special bonus episode here on 83weeks.com. Eric Green says, Eric, you called it. You said he wanted to be on screen, and he was. So you're getting a little bit of flowers there. So shout out to Eric Green for showing up with us early this morning.
And Eric, I got to tell you, thank you very much. But honestly, I'm right so often that I'm so used to it now. It's hard to explain. I want to be wrong. Somebody prove me wrong. I dare you.
Eric Green also wants to know, this can clearly be an NWO type story. What would you do to follow that template, but make it different for today's audience and times? Is there a way to borrow from the NWO story here, Eric?
Sure there is. But it would start out with casting, like any story, any movie, any book that defines characters before you really get into the meat of the story. It's all about casting and it's all about characters. And sure, it could be done. I'm not going to go off into the weeds on this one. Yes, it could be done. Look, there's only basically, 7 stories that have ever been told. And every story that's followed that has been a variation of one of those 7 or a combination. So yeah, of course it could be. Question is, will it be? And it's all in the execution.
We got Coach Rosie asking a question here. He wants to know who should be on Team Tony to battle the Elite. Hypothetically, if that is the way they're going, I think Coach's question is the same as yours. Casting. Does anybody stand out on the other side? I mean, obviously some of those questions will be answered with Kenny Omega next week. Anybody else? Yeah,
there are there. I that's something I can't just, throw that shit off the top of my head because it won't be any good. But the talent is there. There's no question. When it comes to potential cast members, there's a lot of people that are available and definitely could cast it, but not here on this show, not off the top of my head, but it could be done.
some of the questions we get. First of all, thank you, Mr. Epic, for joining us on adfreeshows.com. I appreciate you being a supporter of what we're doing at Ad Free Shows, and thank you for being such a big listener to 83 weeks. But questions like this just throw me off, Eric. Mr. Epic wants to know, is it too late for AEW? Could they turn it around? They have no major stars that can be more. Tag team division is dead. Refs are useless. What could they do to actually make it? What does that even mean? I understand he's saying, oh, how are they going to get to 2 million viewers? The answer is they're not. But can they turn it around? I mean, the narrative here is that it's like, oh, goddamn, they're circling the drain. They're about to go out of business. That's not where they are, Eric.
They have the talent. They have the financial backing. They have a cable platform. Absolutely, it could be turned around. Not to compete with WWE. And that's the first thing that I would do is tell everybody. First thing I would do is tell the audience, we're not WWE. It's silly to compare us to WWE. We're different than WWE. And then I would define how we're different. You have to commit to that. And you have to figure out what that is. What are those differences? And it can be done. But you have to commit to the differences in order to communicate them on a weekly basis. And once you quit taking shots at the big guy, at the 800-pound gorilla, leave all that shit alone. Leave it to the chat rooms where it belongs. Stop it. Focus on your brand. Okay, I said shut up and wrestle, but that's what I'm talking about. Focus on your brand and those differences. Keep them alive. Don't forget them. Don't come and say, oh, we're going to be more sports centric and we're going to keep track of records and we're going to use that to figure out who's going to be our champion. Not once, but we're going to do it twice. I think maybe even 3 times. I don't know. And then just abandon it within 5 minutes after you've made that commitment. So whatever the commitments are to differentiate yourself and create a unique selling proposition within your brand, commit to them and reinforce them on an ongoing basis. And then just focus on your own shit and take a little bit of what works from WWE. Take a little bit, or maybe more than a little bit, of what works in Japan. Take a little bit, or maybe more than a little bit, of the, I'm going to call it the Osprey style, but obviously there are more people that are really great at that, including Bryan Danielson, as we saw. Keep that in your show. Keep that in your format. Commit to it and do it on an ongoing basis. So whatever those elements of your show that are unique selling propositions that you commit to and maintain, while not comparing yourself and taking shots at somebody that you can't compete with, before you know it, you'll have brand loyalty because people will see that you're committing what you promised. It's a brand promise. Committing to the distinguishing characteristics of your show, what makes you unique, separating from yourself from the 800-pound gorilla and not taking shots at them like a little bitch every time you get a chance, will create brand equity and loyalty within your own product. And God forbid, it will probably grow your product. But they're lost in this netherworld of jealousy and envy and resentment or whatever it is of WWE, including talent, and they're communicating that to their audience, and it's creating the tribalism that they bitch about. Stop doing that. That would turn things around. It really would. A lot of things that they could do to turn it around. Great question. Thank you.
Lindsay wants to know, what did you think about Goldberg's comments recently about AEW being too cheesy? That's something we haven't talked about here on the program. I'm sure you saw that. What did you think?
It's his opinion. After watching the show last night, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. So you can understand why somebody like Bill Goldberg, whether you agree with whether he deserves to have this perspective or not. I do. He was one of the major forces in the Monday Night Wars, and one of the things that helped turn Jungle Jack legitimately helped turn the industry around. Now, you can argue whether he deserved it or not. You can argue how much of an impact he had or not, but he had impact. And he has a perspective as a result of that. And if his perspective is he wouldn't want to associate with AEW because of whatever opinion, I can certainly understand it. And after watching the show last night, I can't blame him. Would you want to be a part of that? I would.
I saw somebody say that you love when there is a show long thread and you always praise that. You have an A story, a B story, a C story. If nothing else, they did have a thread with this story from showing the guys arriving backstage and security trying to stop Jack Perry from coming in and Marvez trying to get a word with him. And, Matthew revealing that, hey, he's going to meet Tony Khan tonight in the ring. They at least, with their A story, they did have that thread last night. You got to give them some props for that. They're trying to tell a story here.
And I did notice that in the show, and taking the creative out of it from a formatting perspective, it was absolutely the right thing to do. It's too bad they didn't do it with Shad Strickland because they shit all over the world champion in the process of making that story the A story. But they did do it, and I do acknowledge that, and that is a step. Again, it goes back to understanding A story, B story, C story, D story, and where your world champion fits within that. But they did it. It's a step in the right direction.
Barat actually pointed out something that I really hadn't thought of. Is it almost inevitable that the owner or the boss of a wrestling company will end up on camera and playing a character eventually? It seems to have been the case everywhere in the history of the business. And part of me wanted to say, well, that's not true. But then it's like, well, Jim Crockett was on TV and Paul Bosch was on TV and Bill Watts was on TV and Vince McMahon was on TV and Bischoff and Dixie Carter and Scott D'Amore. And it's like, God damn, when you think about it like that, I think he's on to something. Almost everybody, every promotion ever. I mean, maybe it was inevitable. Do you agree with that?
I mean, it sure looks that way. Just look at the, 33,000 feet, look down, see the dots, connect the dots, right? Something else that Barat pointed out earlier, and I wanted to mention it. And I had gone out for Indian food with Barat while I was in Melbourne, or actually in
Ballarat,
outside of Melbourne. And we had a lot of great conversation. But one of the things that Barat pointed out is that Shad Khan hails from a warrior tribe called the Patani tribe or background. He's born to fight. So evidently there is this Patani warrior tribe, of which Shad Khan is from originally, I guess, related to, is a warrior tribe in Pakistan. So there it just comes naturally, right? I guess it would work. But to your question, your statement, Barat, it is inevitable, it seems like, isn't it? And I think partly, I don't think it's all ego. It's not like, everybody that you mentioned, had this strong desire to be in front of the camera. I don't think Vince McMahon necessarily wanted to be in front of the camera as the boss. I think that was something that was forced upon him in a way, or not forced necessarily, but he saw the need for it at that time. I don't think it was something he wanted to do or felt the need to do or his ego needed to do. It was business. It was good business, as we've discussed. Bill Watts, I think, was a wrestler long before he was a promoter, so that's kind of natural. Vern Gagne, same thing. Promoter, wrestler. Myself, I started out as a television character. I didn't make myself one. Now, I did put myself into a high-level position within the NWO, high visibility position, I should say, within the NWO, but it also kind of makes sense. It made sense. Like one of the issues going back to that period of time was, wait a minute, how are these guys getting into the building? How do they allow them to do what they're doing? How could this possibly be true? And that was a good, valid criticism. And I listened to it and I went, oh, that's right. We need somebody that can eventually be revealed as the person that allowed all this to happen in the first place. I made sense as the president of the company. The story made it make sense from the very beginning. How did Scott Hall get that opportunity? Even after that. So that wasn't necessarily my ego, because by that time I had been on television for a long time. And it it wasn't that big a deal to me. But if the story improved as a result, it made sense. Dixie Carter, I think, was a different situation. I think Dixie really did want to be on TV and was looking for the opportunity to help justify it. She was looking for her logic, and she created it kind of out of nowhere, as I think Tony has. Doesn't make it wrong. If he can learn how to execute, if he can be that heel character, whatever, I'm all for it. But we'll see. We'll see. Who else? Who else was on that list? Scott D'Amore. I think Scott D'Amore. I don't know Scott D'Amore at all. You do. I don't.
He's a wrestler. He was a wrestler.
Okay, he was a wrestler, but I don't even think that was it with Scott. If I put myself in the shoes that Scott was in at the time he was running TNA and then put himself on television, he's the guy in charge.
Yeah.
Every wrestling company has always had an authority figure. Jack Tunney, Wally Carbo.
Yeah.
Whoever. I don't know the rest of them. There's always been that matchmaker, that authority figure. You have to have it. You have to have some degree of structure in order for the stories to make any sense. If you haven't listened to the show that I did last night on Wise Choices with Bully Ray, please do yourself a favor and go back and listen to it. Not because of anything I said, but because of everything that Bully said. He did such a phenomenal job of articulating his perspective on what works and why it works in a non-critical way. Critical in the sense that he's offering a critique, but not critical in the sense of being mean. But whatever. But yeah, I think you go back and you look at the need for structure in order to create rules so that when those rules are broken, there are implications. Bully gave a great example. Refs go out, they start the count out. Well, I mean, the count outs they're fucking nonsensical. They might as well not exist. If there's no rules to break, why have any rules? Bully did a great job of talking about that last night. So I think when you have a wrestling organization, you have conflict between two people or two or more people, there's got to be somebody in the center of that conflict that is your power source, that is the judge and jury. And therefore, that person can easily and probably should, to a degree, become a character. The question is, to what extent should they become a character? Should it be a Jack Tunney, where you only, break glass in case of fire, bring them in occasionally to help resolve those creative issues? Is it a Eric Bischoff character who's there each and every week during the NWO period? I would posit that that's too much. From experience, I did it. Nobody else did it to me. But I overexposed that character, relied upon it too much, right? Did Vince McMahon overplay his character? I don't think so, especially towards the end, because he'd come in and he'd come out at the right time. So I think it's always going to be there to some degree. I think the question that the individuals involved need to ask themselves is, how much is too much? What is this person playing this character capable of carrying? Be careful with that, because that's the danger. That's where the bottom can fall out of the basket if you put too much emphasis on a character. How do I know that? I fucking did it.
I saw some criticism for Tony Khan's selling last night, and I gotta say, it made me laugh. I mean, I don't remember if people remember. I don't know if everyone remembers, rather, Vince McMahon taking his first stunner. But it wasn't what I would call a classic stunner sale. And I don't know if you remember Vince taking his last stunner, but it too was not maybe the prettiest stunner that Stone Cold ever gave. These are not professional wrestlers, and we're thrusting them into it. I mean, what did you expect? He's not supposed to be good at this. Like, I thought that was a silly thing to take issue with. And I saw a lot of criticism online saying, well, that was stupid because the whole locker room should have come out and saved him. It totally took me out of it. Yeah, but that wouldn't have allowed them to do the angle. Like, you do have to suspend your disbelief every now and again here, right, Eric?
Well, you have to hopefully you suspend your disbelief from the moment the show opens.
Right.
Suspending your disbelief allows you to get sucked into the story and the characters that are unfolding in front of you. Your goal as a producer should be to get people to suspend disbelief. I think what you're talking about, though, Conrad, is something different. Let me first talk about the bump. Yeah, a stunner, awkward one to take if you've never taken one before, which, by the way, there's no excuse for Vince McMahon. I am not covering for him. It was fucking lazy and stupid of Vince not to practice that, because it's not a hard bump to take and make look good. All due respect. The only reason it didn't look good is because Vince was either probably too busy or didn't think he needed to walk through that with Steve. Otherwise, there was no reason for it to look bad. I've taken it. I'm not saying I took it well, but I sure as hell took it better than Vince McMahon did. And it's not hard if you just relax and go with it. That being said, Tony's, it wasn't a bump, it was a punch to the stomach. Okay, now the pile driver was a bump, but he didn't take that well or didn't take that well. That's just, it is what it is. You're knocked out. You're just dead. So there's no right way or wrong way to take it as long as you're able to walk away from it. That being said, I think what people were reacting to is that ridiculous punch that he took. First of all, Jungle Jack looked like he was popping a balloon. It was the worst punch I've seen in a while. If you can't at least make a working punch look good to somebody's midsection, you probably shouldn't be throwing punches. But so Jack didn't do Tony any favors, because immediately it didn't look real. Tony's reaction to it drew attention to it, because I don't think Tony's ever been punched in the stomach. Good for him, by the way. I wish I could say the same. But he oversold the hell out of it. And he sold dead. If you ever hear the term selling dead, this is what that means. He just oversold it, and he laid there like he got shot. Horrible. Horrible. And that's, look, is it the end of the world? Fuck no. Coach Rosie's here. Such a great guy. Both Lori and I love him. He's part of the family.
Great human being.
Great guy in every way. He likes this angle. He disagrees with me. He's in the chat room, ad-free shows. And I'm glad he disagrees with me. And I'm even more happy that he believes in what he feels strongly enough to point it out. And I with you, Rosie, I hope I'm wrong. Glad you're there for it. But the execution, I've been talking about execution since we started the show an hour, 47 minutes and 21 seconds ago. It's all in the execution, and something as little as how you sell that punch helps either get it over and make it believable or make people laugh at it. I don't know that anybody was, some people were probably laughing at that. I did. It was like, oh my God, could you not have walked through? You've got Jake Roberts backstage. You've got Arn frickin' Anderson backstage, probably walking around wondering why they're there. Why not pull one of those guys aside and say, hey, this is what we're doing. How can we make this look the most real that we possibly can? Let's walk me through this, Arn. Walk me through this, Jake. Teach me how. Because this is not like learning how to do a Hurricane Rana. Teach me how to register. That's another thing Bully talked a lot about last night. The difference between registering and selling. This would have been a fucking master class for Tony to take right before he went out there and did this. It would have added to the believability of it, and it would have taken away the almost parody kind of aspect of it, because he oversold it. It is important. It's a little thing. It's really not in the big scheme of things. It's a little moment. It's a moment, a very little one, in what's going to be an ongoing series of events. In and of itself, not a big deal. But because it was one of the flashpoints in the story and it looked so ridiculous, it kind of, it casts a shadow. Just, wasn't necessary either. Could have been so easily avoided. Jake Roberts, Arn Anderson. Geez, I wonder if I can figure out how to make this punch look good. hey, Jungle Jim, let's go talk to these two guys. Let's work on this for an hour before the show, because that's about what it would take. It would take an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and it would have looked awesome.
Barat has one more thought I think we should close with. He's been doing a lot of thinking in his part of the world this morning. I hope Shad walks out and talks about how he came to the U.S. from Pakistan with nothing and created these incredible businesses, and questions his own decision to hand over the inheritance, make it real. That's something I hadn't even considered. But Shad Khan coming out and making that part of the story leans into all the negativity and all the hate. Man, I love a good work shoot or whatever you want to call this, brother.
But here's where, okay, now I'm excited. I'm interrupting not because I'm angry or passionate, because I'm excited. I guess that's passionate.
Do it.
Here's what I say, I hate fantasy booking, but when you hear a good idea,
yeah,
you can see the idea play out in your head as you're listening, or in this case, reading the idea. What if, oh God, I almost get horny when I start something out with what if. It's like I'm reaching for a blue chew. I'm going to go knock on my wife's office door and say, hey, put your shit down. We got business to take care of. What if that were to happen? Shad comes out and he's a character, and he comes out with dialogue that sounds something like Brad just suggested. That's the beginning of Act 1. What if then Tony's journey, and this is so relatable. There are psychiatrists and psychologists all over the world that would understand what I'm about to say from that perspective, because we all have some sense, desire, drive to live up to the expectation of our parents. Some people more than others. Some people, it's a clinical problem. Some people, it's just, boy, I wish I would have made my dad more proud of me. That's so inherent in all of us that it's a relatable premise for a great story. Because the journey then becomes, how does Tony gain his father's approval? How does Tony make his father proud of him? That's a journey that we've all lived. Some of us in our childhoods, some of us it carries through. I'll speak for myself. It's one of the things that I regret, is that I didn't make my father more proud of me than I did. I think all of us have some of that. And that's just, when you have something, when you have an emotion or a premise to a story that's relatable, because so many people, to one degree or another, have that same feeling themselves. And then you're able to play it out in a way that allows your audience and those people that have that little bit of what you have in you in that story, it could be such a great story, and it can have such a great happy ending. It's a great premise. Rod, you should give up cricket. Quit covering cricket. Quit being one of the most well-known cricket journalists in the world. Put all the success that you've had off to the side, put a pin in it, and be a wrestling booker. Don't tell your wife I told you that. Oh, I lost you, Conrad. I lost your audio.
I had myself muted.
Oh,
apologies. That never happens, but it did today. I for one am pumped about the idea of knowing that MJF is going to be coming back sooner rather than later. You know, he's going to be smack dab in the middle of this. And obviously we're going to hear from Kenny Omega next week. I'm just glad that we've got some sort of story. And for everybody who has said, oh, it's not about matches, it's about story, it feels like we finally got a story. So it is at least different than what we have been seeing in AEW, although maybe a lot of people are thinking it is the same old authority figure story. We're going to wait and see. But just the idea that we're talking about it today, and tonight is the draft, it makes me want to ask you, and I guess a lot of people are debating this on social, is there such a bad thing as bad press? I mean, is the juice worth the squeeze? You were famous for some publicity stunts, whether it was Jay Leno or Dennis Rodman or David Arquette. do you think this one gets any sort of mainstream attention over the next few days that benefits AEW in any measurable way?
Well, it's already gotten mainstream visibility, so that part of the question has already been answered. Yes, it will. It has in this case. Will it affect AEW in any measurable way? No.
Well, we'll see what's next on the program. Of course, this weekend we've got a big collision, and next week AEW Dynamite will be right on time with Kenny Omega returning back to the fold. And I'm sure we'll be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly right here on 83weeks.com. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. Eric is going live whenever he feels footloose and fancy free. When he's got a burr under his saddle, he knows how to hit the button on his own now. He's dangerous. We're just hoping that he doesn't accidentally hit it and we hear or see some things we're not supposed to hear or see. But maybe that's a plug for a Blue Chew sponsor that we're not plugging on YouTube today. So thank you guys for tuning in, supporting everything that we do here. Tell your friends. It's absolutely free here. 83weeks.com, your home for all things Eric Bischoff. And of course, you get all of our shows early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. Eric, anything else you want to mention as we sort of wind down this recap of last night's AEW Dynamite?
No, I've got some travel coming up this weekend and looking forward to doing another 83 weeks. And I'm going to stay active. Keep hit that subscribe button, because while I'm out of town, I may very well indeed have some fun here on YouTube, because I enjoy it.
You getting fired up on YouTube is a super fun watch. And we are going to our regular 83 weeks format again this coming week. We just did Hogan Celebrity Championship Wrestling. Next on deck is the WCW Hall of Fame. You can expect that on Monday morning, just like always at 83weeks.com. And we'll see you guys sooner rather than later right here on 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff.